Welcome back to a second chance at love and marriage. As you can see, I'm solo today, and I wanted that because I really want to share my personal reasons for getting married again, and specifically to Shanice. It's a lot of guys, or I know a couple of guys that have asked me why did I choose to get married, and to Shanice particularly when I got out of prison. And from our standpoint, that's a good question to ask, and I didn't want to leave some of the viewers high and dry as if I don't understand or even consider what they're coming from, because I had to ask myself that question, and I did. I asked myself why now. Just getting out, it was within maybe a month or two when I got out that I got married to Shanice again. Why so fast, and why her particularly? And it's so many things that I could say, but I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible. But I really want to touch bases on my reasoning for making the choices that I made. And I had to consider my circumstances of what I was coming out of, being in prison for the duration of the time that I was in. Our choices and our decisions are really situational and circumstantial, in the sense that we make choices, and we do have the right to make choices, but given the limited situation and circumstances that we're under. So I always felt as if my choices were limited, that I wasn't making the choices that I would have made had I not been in that situation or circumstances. So once I got out, I told myself that I want to be free. I want to be free to make the choices that I wanted to make in life, not based on a circumstance or a situation. And doing that, we have to not allow people's decision or their lack of responsibility. I don't know how you want to say that, but their lack of not doing what we want them to do to control our choices. And from our position in prison, a lot of times we make choices based on resentfulness. We mad because a person may not have done what we wanted them to do. They may have made some choices that we wouldn't have liked them to make, or maybe we wouldn't have made ourselves. So we hold that against them. And when we do get out, we say, since they did this to me, I'm gonna do that to them. But we gotta ask ourselves, is that not a circumstantial choice? Hadn't these things not happened, would you have made the same choice? So I asked myself a lot of that stuff when I was in the joint. I was asking myself, why do I do the things that I do? And the choices that I make, are they circumstantial or situational? And if they were, I said, when I get a chance, I'm not going to limit myself to certain circumstantial or situational choices. And it's hard out here because obviously I can't take away the fact that certain choices and situations is definitely going to be a reason why we make certain decisions. But ultimately, we got to take responsibility of our own lives and make choices regardless of what people done or said to us. So that was one of the main reasons why I chose to marry Shanice at the speed of the time that I chose to marry her, is because that was a choice that I wanted. That was a choice that I wanted. I didn't want the checkered past or the frustrating situations that we went through to make me say, I'm doing this because of that. I had to ask myself, this is something that I really wanted to do. So that was one of the main reasons why I did it. Another thing is that I looked at, if I was in her shoes situation, a lot of times we fault the people for doing what we have done or we would have done. And a lot of times, I can't speak for other people, but I put Shanice in situations where she had to make situational and circumstantial choices. And because I know that I've done that, is it right for me to say, now that I can make a choice, is it right for me to make a choice that I hated that she made? And I don't know, we often ask ourselves, if we were in someone else's shoes and they made a choice that they made, how would we feel about that? And what would our response be? We only judge from our personal feelings and how the person done us, instead of how did we do them. And with that being said, I put Shanice in a bad situation. When I went to prison, I left her with two young boys to raise. I left her with responsibilities that were more than, she could handle. And I left her out there with that situation. And no matter how we justify it, I abandoned her. I abandoned my family. And I didn't do it for means of taking care of them. I wasn't risking my life to take care of them. I was selfish. I totally checked out. I was upset with what was going on in my life. I didn't want the responsibility of being a husband and a father. So I checked out. And as selfish as that was, it made her to have to deal with circumstances and situations that she wouldn't have had to deal with. So looking back, how can I get mad if she chose to check out for a reason that, is actually reasonable? She didn't have to deal with that situation. It was too much to deal with that situation. So maybe her choice was circumstantial and situational, but I understand. And when you understand something, it takes a lot of the fault finding away instead of saying, well, you did this. Why? Why did you do that? And sometimes people don't have to explain to you why they did certain things when you look back and say, yeah, I did this. And that was a reaction to my action. And we know that every action has a reaction. So when we start to mature and start to ask ourselves certain questions about our lives and how people have done certain things to us, we have to ask ourselves why. Why did this situation transpire? What part, or how much of a part did I play in this choice? And when we evaluate that situation, we have to take responsibility and says, I can see why that person done that. So when it came down to it, I had to say, you know what? I put Shanice in a circumstantial situation. I put her in a situational situation where she had to do what she felt, whether I understood or believed that or not, was the best for her and the boys. And I understand that. It's more than forgiveness to me. Sometimes we forgive people because we figure religiously we have to, or emotionally that's the best healthy way for us to move on. But I forgive Shanice not because she made a decision that I didn't like. I truly understand why she made that decision. And I understand that that decision was not because she didn't love me. She didn't want to be with me. It was the pressure of the circumstances. So giving all of that, when it was time for me to get out and make a choice, it was that much easier for me to deal with Shanice, deal with our marriage and what happened in the marriage, because I first and foremost took responsibility for my actions. I first and foremost held myself responsible for what I did to her and what I did to our family. So I couldn't blame her. I couldn't hold her responsible alone. Now, we all do make choices, and her choice was a choice she made, but I was very much instrumental in that choice. So I took evaluation of all that stuff, and it made me realize that, you know what, I can't give myself first and foremost a chance to be happy again. And if this is what she would want, her chance to be happy again. So going back to the first point I made, I was no longer going to make a circumstantial situational decision. I wasn't going to let what Shanice and I went through while I was in prison and the 9 years of divorce to say, you see, I can't go back to that because she left me. Because that still would have been giving her control of my decisions, not because I don't love her or that I'm mad, but she's making a decision based on something happened in the past. And that's not being a man, that's not being free. So I told myself that I'm gonna make this decision and I can't make it for her, but if she chooses to make the decision to be with me, we both gonna have to move past the circumstances and we're gonna say this is the decision we make today. And with that being said, also I looked at, she never got a chance to meet the best version of me, for two reasons. One, I got locked up, and took me out of her life. And although we had known each other for some time before we got married, we didn't know each other deep enough. We didn't know each other mature and developed enough to truly say, I like this person or I don't like this person. So that was one of the reasons I figured that if she would have known me, who I really was, it would have helped her to make a decision of, is this the man for her? And second part of that, I grew up in prison. I grew up to the man that I am today. And I became the best version of myself while I was confined. And because I became the best version of myself, I wanted to present to her the best version of me. So when I got out, I said, you know what? It's not about the relationship. It's not about the marriage. It's about me in a selfish sense, but not in a bad selfish sense. I wanted her to see that this is who Sean is. Apart from being your husband, being Devin and Donovan's father, or, my sibling's brother, or my parents' son, I am this man. And this is the man that I like. This is the man that I accept. This is the man that I believe that I was divinely created to be. And you have a choice of whether you want this man in your life or not. I was so content with, if she chose not to have this man, I would have been hurt, of course, because I knew I loved her, but I would have been able to move forward because I know she would have been making a decision based on the factual evidence that was presented to her instead of circumstances or something that was conditional. I was conditioned to be a certain type of individual with my history and my past, and what she got was a man that was conformed to life. She didn't get a man that was transformed by the renewing of his mind or the revelation of who he was. So I thought that would have been selfish for me to go to prison, find out who I was, fall in love with the man I become, accept the man I become, and not give her a chance to see if that's something that she wanted in her life. And I was so confident that if she knew me for who I was, that she too would love me. But once again, I couldn't make that decision for her. So that was my whole thing, was to present to her a creation that she had a right to make a choice, an informed choice, if that's what she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. And once I did that, once I presented this person to her, I left the ball in her court, per se. Where do you want to go from this? I told her how I felt. I told her what I wanted, but I knew at the end of the day, it was her choice. I had made my choice, and it wasn't circumstantial anymore. It wasn't based on the past. It wasn't based on anything but the choice of what I wanted and the situation that has awakened me up to my personal responsibility of how I put her in a situation. It was now up to her. And I was happy with what had transpired, in those small amount of time when we were talking. I was like, I didn't give her all of me, but I gave her enough of me to her to make an informed decision. And once she started to make that decision, it was a quick process. She did want to get to know this man. She did come to an understanding that, maybe the decisions that I made, prior to him going to prison and while he was in prison was circumstantial. So we gave it a chance. And we started to see that I believe we were created for each other, that we not only made each other better, but we brought something to each other's life that without it, we didn't have. And that's some of the things about why I did what I did. Do it take away some of the pain that I experienced from how I felt I was abandoned? No. But it doesn't take away her pain that I abandoned her. Does it take away some of the resentment and frustration that I had? No. But it doesn't take away that from her either. So when we just balance and understand things from a real stage of perspective, we have to see things a different way. And once we see things a different way, we learn to approach life a different way. And as I'm out here, I'm approaching life from a from a pro a preemptive and in control situation. I'm not a reactionary person. I'm not a person that allow my circumstances to get so far out of hand that now I got to make a choice. So I vowed to do that. I've vowed to be in control of my emotions, of my life, and things of that nature. It's not to say that I don't have negative or bad feelings at times, but I don't allow them to be the ruling thumb or the strongest point of me making decisions, and that's what I've learned to do, to liberate myself from past, from hurt, from pain, and ask myself, what do I really want? And leaving people the right to not agree with me, to not want what I want, and things of that nature. They have a right to ask themselves, what do they really want? And since I've done that, I've come to a better place in my life. I've come to a stronger place in my life. And Shanice has only added to my happiness and enhanced the quality of my life, because she too is a fan and a person that is really focused on self-growth and development. And because of that, we work well together, and we journey through this whole life as partners and compassionate lovers of life, not only of one another, but lovers of life. We want a better life, quality of life for ourselves and also for other people. So we share our lives and our journey with people. And as you can see, me and Shanice sometimes speak totally different languages, but prospectively, we still want the same thing. We want relationships and people to be healthy, but we first and foremost know that if we're not healthy, we're only going to give them what we are. And if we're not dealing with our own circumstances and situations, we can't be expected to help other people. And we're not really looking to help people as much as people may think. We're looking to share what helped us. And in doing that, all we can hope is that people see who we are today. And that's my whole journey. I love my wife, and I've made a choice to love her beyond the circumstances and situations we experience, to love her for who she is. And that has helped us. That is one of the major reasons why I chose to marry Shanice and to be back in a relationship with her, because I love her. And regardless of what happened, regardless of what happens tomorrow, my choice of loving her won't be based on situations and circumstances. It's going to be based on my desires and what I want. So that's my perspective, and I hope it answered some questions, and I hope it gave a better understanding of why I did what I did. And hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys have some comments. You will share those comments with us, and we do our best to answer any questions or have any shows that maybe follow up to things that people have to say. Appreciate you. Bye.